Let's check out the GOAT.
Does it matter to you that maybe one day they'll call you the best Mexican fighter ever?
Saul Alvarez. Canelo.
Canelo's waiting for fifth gear.
That was the end of Kovalev as we once knew him.
Kovalev's hurt! Kovalev's down! Kovalev's out! It's over! There's fifth gear. Canelo is the light heavyweight champion of the world.
The youngest of 7 brothers, who would all fight professionally.
And with the red hair, he's got an unusual look. An Irish-looking Mexican prize fighter.
His red hair and freckles earned him the nickname he is now synonymous with, Canelo.
You may see on his trunks the word Canelo. That means cinnamon. They call him cinnamon for that reddish hair.
Yeah. But looks more Irish than he does Mexican.
Y'all don't understand. When this kid was barely starting, he was 15, fighting with grown-ass men.
When was the first time you saw Canelo Alvarez? When was the first time you laid eyes?
He was like 14 years old.
Playing to packed houses in Mexico, there to watch him beat up grown.
Well, he started when he was 14. I remember when I started like seeing him when Televisa was pushing him, you know. He was like 15, I think.
Men.
Red hair, freckles. I said, oh, wow. I mean, this must be, what, is he Irish or what is he? No, this is a Mexican kid because he turned pro in Mexico when he was 15.
Boy!
So he started making noise and started knocking everybody out.
Yeah,
Guadalajara, México, Saúl El Canelo Alvarez.
By day, he sold popsicles with his brothers. By night, they trained.
He's come from a family with 6 brothers, so he's been boxing since he was a kid.
His uncommon gifts quickly revealed themselves, as did his unique disposition to strive for something greater than his humble origins.
Right? Coming from Guadalajara, the hometown area of Saul Alvarez.
Alvarez, who turned pro in Guadalajara at age 15.
Alvarez poured it on.
He was still just 17 years old when he contended for the WBA Feta Central welterweight title. Winning by a corner stoppage in the 8th. By age 18, he had built an impressive 22-0 record.
So sure enough, I mean, he turned 18. He was ready to sign with a promoter, and so I already had started like noticing him. I started thinking, wow, I have this red-headed Mexican, freckles, good-looking kid. I mean, there's something here that I can do with him. I can promote him.
Ha peleado 2 veces, buena derecha.
Saúl Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo Alvarez has been trained his entire career by the father-son team in his corner, Chepo Reynoso and his son Jose.
I'm an admirer of your style and your career and your willingness to fight everyone and your ability to learn as a professional and get better and better and better.
Alvarez has trained his entire boxing life with the same group, molding him into a champion. Next, he was pitted against Yuri Gonzalez for the WBO Latino welterweight title.
2 guys with very good skills, equally matched.
Canelo's nice and poised. He doesn't waste punches.
That's maturity in this young fighter.
Canelo attacked with blistering combinations.
Alvarez suddenly found 3 right hands, an uppercut,
and secured the stoppage.
and he stunned Gonzalez. And there it is, it's over. Just like that.
In boxing's long chronicled history, Mexico has been a treasure trove of elite warriors, known for their unshakable courage. In order to rise to the top in Mexico, a man must be made of iron and possess never-ending reserves of determination.
He was winning his fights easily. The TV made him that he's not a real fighter.
Yeah, that's the thing I hate. They kept saying that Televisa made him and Televisa pushed him and everything. No, this guy had talent since age 15.
He's got mad offensive skills, and we know this.
He was a national hero in his home country.
I love the variation. I mean, Canelo's offensive variation is incredible. He throws punches from a lot of different sides.
It's not just the punch, but the aftermath.
In 2010, he signed with Golden Boy.
You just signed the richest contract in the history of sports. $300+ million deal, $35 million guaranteed minimum per opponent.
Packing in massive crowds and significant pay-per-view interest.
From the way he fights, you'd never guess he was 19 and been fighting for 5 years.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
I am the greatest.
You know, what you look at, he's 19, but he's had about 30-something fights.
Good counter right hand up and under from Alvarez and Cotto.
He dropped a video game combo on Cotto.
That was a little 5-punch combination.
Getting the stoppage.
Alvarez is tees off, and Tony Weeks is going to stop it right there.
Designed to push Canelo's abilities to their limits.
And it comes down to who's got the biggest gas tank. It's got to be you.
Next up, a fight for the vacant WBC Super Welter title.
Alvarez's crowd jumping into it, cheering him on.
Guy got hit so hard, he looked back in disbelief.
He is a bona fide rock star, major box office attraction in Mexico.
And now he brings his trade to Los Angeles, California for the first time. Barely 20 years old, and yet some in that country, Sergio, believe he could be the next megastar. Currently ranked number 2 by the WBC, number 3 by the WBO, and number 4 by the WBA. Everything's landing for the 20-year-old.
Alvarez continued his insane pace, racking up 37 fights before turning 21.
Is this going to be the next superstar going forward after Pacquiao and Mayweather in their mid-30s walk away?
Saul Alvarez and Alfonso Gomez for the WBC Super Welterweight title.
We heard all the drum beats about what was expected of him, and now those expectations are being fulfilled, maybe even a little bit on the early side.
And we're underway. Scheduled for 12.
Canelo is the golden boy first because he can fight his ever-loving ass off.
Oh, that's a big shot. That hurt him. That's 3 and out of punches, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all over.
He's just 21 years old. Left hook and a right hand by Alvarez. Left hook by Alvarez. Good right hand by Alvarez. Ships Citron and drops him. He really hurts Citron.
Canelo would be tested big against the legend, Sugar Shane Mosley.
Sugar Shane Mosley, terrific fighter, terrific guy. And the chants from a huge Mexican audience here in Las Vegas have already begun to go up. Canelo, Canelo, which is cinnamon, you know.
And it was a telling blow. He hurt Mosley with that.
Yeah, he looks like he's breaking.
If you've never been hit in the gut like that, it's like one of the worst.
Mosley down right now.
I used to get it in the balls.
Oh, nice uppercut. That one almost lifted Mosley off his feet.
Going the distance, Alvarez won a unanimous decision. He now had the WBC and the WBA Super Welterweight titles.
Been in a lot of arenas since the 1980s for big fights. Few have been as electric as this.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the greatest boxers to ever fight. It's easy to see Canelo's 42 wins and think Alvarez was ready for Floyd.
Watch him stand in front of Canelo. Canelo throws a left, throws a right, he's over here. Pop!
But he was still just 23 years old.
Is that if you're the money man, you can pick and choose opponents, fight them when they're not too dangerous, take Canelo when he's 22 years old, minimize the risk, minimize the damage, and get out with all your money and all your marbles. It's a pretty good strategy for the fighter, but maybe not for the sport.
He would go the distance with Money Mayweather. Ultimately, it was a one-sided affair.
Mayweather remains money in Las Vegas. In favor of the winner of the Super Welterweight Championship of the world, and Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd handed out a masterclass in boxing to the 23-year-old Canelo. Alvarez took a lot from the defeat. And over the next several fights, his defensive skills flourished.
His hand movement has been brilliant in the last couple of fights.
And Canelo continues just to slip punches beautifully.
Standing in the pocket and using more head and body movement to force misses.
It's almost like an exercise in the ring, Sergio, when you say, hey, just slip and hit.
What level of aggression to beat Canelo should we expect from you tomorrow night?
I've never seen Kirkland try to play rope-a-dope that tells you how hurt he must be.
I want to be on him so close, it's going to feel like we're...
Hey, how you doing? And then Canelo started to counter with big power and just blasted him out with one of the great combinations we've seen in recent years.
He demolished James Kirkland. a signature KO, one for the highlight reels.
He's going to stop the fight. What a performance by Canelo Alvarez.
Maybe all things considered, the most electrifying of Canelo Alvarez's career.
High altitude runs, lengthy endurance sessions. His training is always evolving. Jumping up in weight, he set aim on the WBC middleweight title. A super fight with Miguel Cotto.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
I'm rich, bitch!
Constantly moving forward, silent aggression.
Two of the biggest names in the sport.
3 rounds to go. Cotto needs these rounds badly.
Steady pressure, God. It's a steady pressure. It's not really with combinations. It's just with him coming forward, looking for shots like that.
That's cool.
The fight went the distance.
Led by unanimous decision, Canelo Alvarez!
Canelo won the unanimous decision, securing the middleweight world title. After making a few quick defenses of his titles, he would face off with Triple G.
A long-awaited showdown between already legendary knockout artist Gennady Golovkin of Kazakhstan and consummate boxer-puncher Canelo Alvarez of Mexico. It's the most compelling style matchup in boxing in several years.
Triple G Canelo this weekend, finally, the super fight, the mega fight.
I am tremendously pumped up at the fact that these two guys are as good as it gets.
The fight was everything fans hoped. Two masters of their craft, battling back and forth.
Many of history's greatest fighters have worn the crown of this division.
It not only promises to be a great action fight, but the build-up is such that it's also the biggest fight in boxing.
His head movement and waist movement has been exceptional.
Both of these dudes got power, and we're talking about a war.
Canelo shakes his head. That usually means he got hit.
I think in the last 2 rounds it started to resemble more of a Triple G type of fight.
Knocking Canelo back with the right hand.
58, 56, Gennady Golovkin.
It was a highly contested fight in a battle to unify the titles. Both fighters standing toe-to-toe.
Triple G rallied like a champion down the stretch, and to pull out what I thought was a draw.
A 3-way split
This is officially a draw.
That was an epic middleweight title fight.
The fight was a draw, but many felt Triple G had won, setting up a rematch to settle the score.
Make some noise if you.
They talked about it. Now it's time to be about it. That's Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, get ready to go in the ring, in the rematch.
The rematch was another battle. This one closer than the first fight.
I've got it 3 rounds to 1, 39-36 for Canelo Alvarez. His accuracy is the difference in some of these rounds, and his defense has been exceptional.
He's not letting the game dictate his level. 10 seconds! He challenged the game. He said, I want to level up. They stare each other at the end of the round.
Boom, perfect timing.
This time, Canelo was the clear victor, unifying the middleweight titles.
From Guadalajara, Mexico, Saul Canelo Alvarez.
He's outboxing the rangiest and cagiest and outfighting the roughest and toughest in the whole wide world.
He moved up to contend for the super middleweight titles, pitted against undefeated champion Callum Smith. Canelo is poised to cement his legacy as one of the greatest boxers to ever fight. Saul Alvarez. Canelo
Alvarez with the look of a 3-division world champion.
Fighting 4 times in 1 year, Canelo set aim on becoming the first Mexican boxer in history to unify in the 4-belt era.
Oftentimes when you get to this point in your career and you're setting guys up in front of an all-time great like Canelo and he's knocking them down one after another, it does not become Canelo versus insert name here. It's Canelo versus ghosts. It's Canelo versus greats.
Nice uppercut with the right hand for Canelo.
He made quick work of his mandatory challenger.
Canelo Alvarez, leaving no doubt in the minds of those who watched on this given night and over the last decade. Easy.
A brilliant 1-2 closed out the fight.
Down goes Yildirim. They have stopped the fight. It's over. No mas from Abney Yildirim, and this was just a pound-for-pound beatdown.
Next, Canelo took on the WBO super middleweight champion, Billy Joe Saunders. Saunders was undefeated and thought to be a true challenge for Alvarez.
Canelo competed 4 times in 11 months this year. I mean, folks, if you have a champion in their prime and they're competing 2 or even, let's say, 3, that's a treat. 4, I'm not going to say it's unheard of, but it is not common.
He's not really. Oh, there's a right hand that moves him back. Good one from Canelo there.
Canelo's looking for that counter right uppercut. He's already missed it 3 times, but he's throwing it with a lot of power.
Like always, Canelo dictated the pace.
Right there, he crashes over the wall.
Right hand scores for Canelo. Round 8.
Going to the body and setting up the uppercut.
You see Canelo landing big shots like he's here.
The right eye of Saunders is swelling up. Canelo rallying his troops here in
And this is what Canelo does to opponents. He breaks down opponents and makes them.
Canelo acting like he's already knocked him out.
After the fight, his orbital was shattered.
And it is over. They have stopped the fight. They have stopped the fight. It is over. Canelo gets the knockout win. I'm not sure what happened to the corner of Saunders. Nevertheless, the pound-for-pound king with another win in the Lone Star State.
After the 8th round, Saunders was unable to continue.
Saul Canelo
Canelo now possessed 3 of the 4 super middleweight belts. All that remained was a showdown with IBF champion Caleb Plant.
You look at the quality of opposition and now the length of it. And again, 31 years of age. I can also remind you, he has never been down on the canvas.
The fight would determine the first undisputed super middleweight champion in the 4-belt era. Plant was undefeated entering the fight with 21 wins. A final dance with super middleweight history for Canelo Alvarez, who aimed to cement his status among Mexican boxers. The fight lived up to expectations, thrilling the sold-out crowd at the MGM Grand.
Now, these are heavy blows from Canelo. He's putting lots into these shots. Billy Joe saying, these aren't bothering me, I'm okay. And trust me, we can see and hear these shots. They're heavy.
Each fighter